Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you for being here once again. Thank you. I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for putting aside whatever you needed to put aside to come and join us today. It is truly a pleasure for the eyes to see you.
Yes.
It's like you have no idea how beautiful you look to us. So often we do television shows looking at the camera. That's it.
And we get to look at them.
Now we get to see you.
Yes.
And I must say that your smiling faces is very encouraging and very empowering. So thank you very much for being here.
And I must say, some of you keep coming back. So thank you for doing that. How unusual.
How unusual to keep having these. Yes. So
we have a very special show planned for you.
The name of the show is Heart to Heart. And it really is about what's in our hearts and what's in your hearts. Because when we connect behind the veil of the protected heart that we always have, we find that we're no different than anyone else. That we share something in common with all human beings. And so this heart to heart is not just from our hearts to you, the studio audience, but from your hearts, because your being here is really a gift to all of the people in their homes who are watching. Your sharing, your participation, your insights, your feedback is a gift to them. And so this is our gift to you and to future generations. We're embrace growth, and we are about living a legacy of love from our heart to yours.
By the way, this show airs November 7th, which is Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Los Angeles time. And there are portions of the show that are not being taped today, that will be taped another time. And so you can get to see the show being aired on the 7th of November, and then every Wednesday evening after that from 7 to 9 p.m. Now, on November 28th, we will be doing a live show in the studio with an audience, and we will accept phone calls as well. So our audience from outside will be able to call us on the air live, and if by then we're able to Skype them in, we will also be able to have Skype with our audience. So here at NITV, in our lives, and we really want to acknowledge you for being so generous to be amongst our first audience. And I must say this because it's very important. When I had my first conversation here with Mr. Adabai and Mrs. Parveen Adabai, who's in charge of the business affairs here at NITV and the management of it, she was so excited about doing a live audience show that she put time, energy, love, commitment, making phone calls. She has already ordered a riser, like how they have. Like
bleachers and risers at shows. So the next time we won't be in chairs, we'll actually be elevated.
So we want you to know that this is a huge commitment and that we really honor our first audience ever to be with us on this show, and that you're always welcome to come back. So thank you.
You're making history with us. So
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you know, there's nothing that I would rather be doing, honestly, than to spend my life and be used up, to have my life use me up, doing something that makes a difference. And I believe that if that's true for me, it's probably true for a lot of people.
Right.
That if you were going to have your life used up by something, wouldn't it be great to, at the end of the life, look back and see that you'd actually made a difference in the world? So I believe that that's true. If that must true for me, it must be true for you.
Yes.
So give yourselves a hand.
And you make a big difference.
These are the people.
Yeah.
These are the people that, if during Columbus's time, when the world was flat, remember back then when the world was flat, it wasn't just that it was an idea that it was a flat world, it was a real flat world as far as the people living in it were concerned. And here was a guy who was going to sail around the world, sail to the other side of the world, and so for all intents and purposes, to the reasonable mind, he was crazy. Yes? He was going to fall off the end of the earth. So I would imagine that the day that they set sail, there were certain people that came down at least to look at the boat. So I would say that at least if we were Columbus, you would be the people that would at least come look at the boat, and some of you would be on the boat. I know you. You would be, some of you, I know you well enough to know you would be on that boat.
Which is why this seminar today is about how do you set a course in your life that separates your past from the present, from the future. So we all know what the past is about in our lives. And some of us don't. You know, I'm always amazed by, I tell people, you know, tell me about your past. And they go, there's nothing to tell. It really isn't all that interesting. That's like telling a scientist what's under the microscope is not interesting, right? Because to a scientist, whatever's under the microscope is something to explore. So I look at people's lives with them, and lo and behold, what they never noticed about themselves and about their past becomes an adventure to be explored, to be learned from, to get to know who they are, that they never saw themselves that way. Because to the untrained eye, it just looks like a bunch of events that happened. Some good, some bad, but don't even know what I learned from it all, you know? Or whatever I learned from it, what is there to talk about, you know? And then when you ask people, you know how many times I remember when I was younger, people would ask me to tell them about myself, and I would say, well, I'm kind, I'm nice, I mean, I would rattle off a bunch of adjectives that at the moment I thought I really was, but I had never stopped to think, am I really? Right? And then when I stopped to really get to know myself and to take inventory of my past and to really look at my actions in life and the things that I had done, some good, some not so good, I saw that I could look at myself honestly and take my own inventory in a way that would actually show me all parts of me, not just the parts that I wanted to see, but all of it. And, well, a lot of us are afraid of doing that with ourselves. A lot of us are afraid of, I don't really want anyone to know me because I'm afraid of what they're going to see, but I'm also afraid of what I'm going to see about myself. And so the minute you're able to look at all of you, you will realize that all those fears were unfounded. That really what you will see when you see all of yourself is a miracle. Is somebody that you have no idea who that person is, but who's sitting in your chair is an absolute gift and miracle to this world. And that is the experience of completing your past. When you actually complete the past and you see yourself as whole and complete. The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful of you. All parts. Yes?
Yes. So, as we said, this part of this seminar is about how it is that the past can influence our present, but also how do you create a future? Has anybody ever heard about this idea? Pardon me?
Unshaped by the past.
Yes. How do you create a future? Now, did you know that you're actually living right now the future that you've already created? This is the future that you created. This is it. Look at your home, the clothes that you're wearing, your current financial situation, whatever it is that's happening in your life is actually a result of beliefs, actions, and convictions that you've had, perceptions that you've had, how you've seen the world, how you've processed that reality, and what you've done with it. Mm-hmm. There's a very interesting musician, I want to call him a magician, who's named Vangelis. Anybody ever heard of Vangelis? Mm-hmm. Some people say Vangelis, some people say Vangelis, right? He's a German guy. He's absolutely brilliant, and he plays every instrument in the entire orchestra. And when he plays these incredible symphonies, he plays each instrument once. Goes into a studio, plays that instrument, plays the next instrument, plays the instrument. It's never written down. He just plays it. Then he puts it together as a layer upon layer upon layer. It's an entire symphony with all the instruments, the drums, every instrument you can think of. One track. He lays it down and it stays down. Okay? And they ask him, how do you do that? What is it that you do that doesn't have you have to do multiple tracks, how you don't write the music down or anything? Okay? He said this very interesting thing that has stuck with me all my life. He said, all I do is distinguish certain sounds from the infinite mass of undistinguished sound that's always going on. Your life is a set of distinctions of certain particular possible realities of all of the infinite possible lives that you could have lived. You're living this one.
Right.
It's a selection, it's a distinction. And so it's actually a privilege to have this life. Like it or not, you might as well enjoy it because it's actually quite a privilege. There's some unconscious mechanisms that are going on in the background. You know, like in your computer, there's things that are happening in the background. You can't really tell what is going on, but it does things, and you know how to drive it. How many of you saw the film The Matrix? Yeah? The Matrix was a film about an alternate reality, a reality that was created in the imagination, but you could step into it and it was actually real. Okay? Now, we're not going to go down that tunnel, but I thought for the sake of this conversation, it would be fun to call this this set of filters, which are made up of your beliefs, your habits, your conditioning, and the things that you learned. Either you were taught them or somebody or you discovered them on your own, things that you've learned that have determined how you see the world. They've determined how you see the world, and therefore, and because they're conditioning from the past, they determine how you will see the present world and how you will see the future world. Does that sound good?
And you give them a meaning, an interpretation. That meaning then determines your behavior, your beliefs. Now, to you, it doesn't look like that. To you, it looks like life happened, and as a result of life, your life is going a certain way, and that you have no control over how it's going.
So this internal matrix, these filters, are designed to be invisible. They're running in the background, and about 90%, 99% really, of all of the activity that's going on that creates your world is happening unconsciously and automatically without you having to be aware of it. It's happening all the time. Okay? You're not aware of it, it runs on automatic, and the fact that it runs on automatic and unconsciously makes it seem like whatever's happening out there is just happening.
Yeah, you have no control over what's going on.
I got nothing to say about that. It's just some stuff happening, right? How many of you look at the world? I mean, I do, and just this is some stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with what happened. It's happening, and it's happening to me.
And how come it's happening to me? You know,
it's happening to me. Right?
How come all of the things that are happening all at once are happening all at once? How come I have the car accident this week, and the next day I have termites in my house, and on the third day, you know, my son's tooth breaks, and you know, how come all this is happening?
Or how come all the good things are happening too?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's easy to question, why did these bad things happen to me? But how come all this great stuff's happening as well?
Well, if you're Persian and all the great stuff's happening, no, you're just waiting for the bad thing to happen.
You just lucked out, right? You're not waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It's like, don't tell anyone that the good things happen.
Yeah, right? So this produces a sense of powerlessness. The fact that it's happening and that appears to be just happening produces a sense of powerlessness, like, I got nothing to say about it. And this sense of powerlessness, you feel a natural need to protect yourself. Yes? I feel powerless. I must construct something to protect myself from all of that not me that's happening to me out there.
Right. So
Can you
then
get
you
that?
become a victim of the events that are happening in your life, as opposed to thinking, I had something to do with things that happened to me. And then we tell people, I had such a hard life, without realizing, well, who was in charge of it?
So this internal matrix that we're talking about, you constructed it. You constructed it with one main goal in life. One main goal. Its sole purpose is to be safe in your environment when you were growing up. You constructed internal matrix when you were growing up to be safe in your environment. And the internal matrix already and automatically makes decisions about what you will see and what you will not see.
So
You'll see something, and a very simplified version of that is the glass half empty or the glass half full. To a person when the glass is half empty, it's half empty. There's no question about it, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just seeing it that way. It is that way. Is that not true? To the believer, there's no such thing as a belief. There's only the truth.
right.
The belief is the truth.
So you know how we always believe that if we're going to a party and they say it's 7 o'clock, what they really mean is 9, right? So then we all show up at 9 because that's what they really meant. Now, for years they could be saying 7, but what do we think? Well, everybody else comes at 9, so it must be 9, yes? So it isn't what's being said or what's really going on, it's what we've interpreted to be what needs to happen, so therefore we behave not on what the invitation says. What do we behave according to?
Internal matrix.
Right? This is how it is in our community.
Preconditioned, so it determines what you see and don't see, what you hear and don't hear. It determines what you believe and do not believe. Somebody could tell you the world is a wonderful place and life is good, isn't it? And if your internal matrix says, no, it's a dangerous place and life sucks, and then you die, right? If that's your belief.
No, that's not what we say.
Oh, you don't say that?
No, we say, good for you. It is not like that for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
I kill you later. So this internal matrix literally determines what you can and cannot believe. You don't have anything to say about it.
Right.
It's automatic. It's going on all the time. You're not even required. You as a human being, your consciousness and awareness is not even required. In fact, if you brought your consciousness and awareness to it, which is what we're doing, and revealed it for what it is, its power to run your life on automatic is immediately dissolved.
Right. So how come your life looks the way it looks? Is because you created a vision of how it would look, and it doesn't look to you like you did that. It looks like life did that.
And
that's the way it is.
To keep you safe.
Right. And that's the way it is, because if that's the way it is, then I know what to expect, so I'm safe. Yes? So to do something that would be risky is to be unsafe.
The highest priority of the internal matrix is to keep you safe. Now, we'll talk about what you are later, okay? Because you are whatever the internal matrix says you are.
And it can be changed, by the way. You're not stuck with this internal matrix. You can first discover what you've done so far, what you've created so far. And if you don't like what you've created, there's an exercise we do in the women's workshop where we go through your whole life. Well, we don't, you do. You go through your whole life and you see what you've constructed. Yes, and the men do it in the men's workshop. And then if you don't like what you've constructed, guess what? You have a choice. Yes?
So let me get through this list of things that the internal matrix determines for you. See and don't see, hear and don't hear, what you believe and don't believe or can't believe, what you value and what you don't value. what you show to others and what you hide, and what criteria you use in making decisions. Remember, you may have heard in another show where I talked about possibility thinkers versus reason thinkers. Reasonable, right? So if reason is what carries the day and keeps you the safest, then that's what you'll make your decision from. If possibility seems safe because you've survived several possibilities, then that'll assist you in making your decision. So a combination of these things created the greatest feeling of safety in your early environment. When you were young, you figured out how it's going around here, right? You're little, you're defenseless, you're powerless, and all these big people are clearly in charge because they got all the food and everything else. They're clearly in charge. They punish you when they don't want to. When they want to, they do whatever they want. You do what they want. So they're clearly in charge. So how do you feel safe in that? You learned very quickly, and in the ages of 1 to 7, which is our absorption stage, our imprint stage. That's the stage in which we're not really like consciously thinking that much. We're just sort of absorbing everything, but at a very, 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 very high rate. Really like locking it in. This is how it works around here. This is how I survive. This person's in charge. You begin to understand things that no other primate can even grasp. You know, facial expressions and body posture and speed and velocity of words and actions and stuff have entirely different meanings, yes? And so you begin to interpret that very, very early, and you lock it in, and it begins to create this internal matrix. And the more your family, your environment was unsafe, the more you will strive to keep your internal matrix exactly the way it is, because on a very deep level, you know that that's what keeps you safe. So the more you try to change it, the more it seems like a very dangerous thing to do on a very fundamental level. Can you get that?
Are you learning something? Yes?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so human beings don't really feel like they have anything to say about how life goes. And what we're here to tell you is you actually have all the say about how life goes. And if your life isn't going the way you'd like it to go, there is a possibility to rewrite your life how you'd like it to go. And what it takes is first seeing how it's gone up to this point and completing the past and having closure with it and accepting it and forgiving yourself and others. It's a whole process that you go through, and then when that's complete, then the space becomes like a blank paper on which you can draw a life that you really want to have. Now, this isn't like The Secret. So some people are like, oh, this is just like, no, it's not. The Secret is a kindergarten version of life. You know, all you have to do is sit there and be grateful for how, for things, and then they will.
It that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you know, how could you just sit there and be grateful for things that are coming your way and then they come your way? In reality, you actually need to go out there and put the action into having that come your way.
Well, I've never seen anybody sit and meditate and have a bag of money fall in their lap. But
you'll be surprised how many people are thinking that's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and so I think that the certain films like The Secret and so forth, while there was a lot of value in it, and
don't misinterpret it.
A lot of people have said, oh, I see, I just have to like concentrate on what I want. I'm doing that now all day long, all day long, all day long. It's not working, right? Because there's missing a very essential part, and that is, in psychocybernetics, they talk about the cycle, and there's a cycle of feel, think, act. Feel, think, act. Feel, think, act. Feel, think, act. Feel, think, act, right? If you just feel, think, feel, think, feel, think, feel, think, nothing gonna happen. In fact, that's good. That is a very excellent formula for depression. People who are in a deep depression, they feel, think, feel, think, feel, think, but they don't do anything about it.
Well, then there's
they don't take the action.
Obsessive compulsive who feel, think, feel, think, feel, think. Let me go wash my hands 100 times a day and clean the house.
Or let's take an action that doesn't handle what I'm thinking about.
Right, because there's so much anxiety that builds up that you have to process it through some action that dispels the anxiety, right?
So I want to point out a part of you that you will recognize. Part of you and me, a part of each of us, something that we all share. I call it the witness, the eternal witness. I use the word eternal because it's always been there. It's always been there. The eternal witness is that part of you that just watches what is happening with curiosity and no particular agenda. Yeah, that part of you recognize that. There's a part of you that just is, looking at life, observing it. And the witness is that part of the higher self that many of you may be searching for. And so that may be obvious to some, but what is not so obvious is this. What you are searching for is what you're searching with. Mm-hmm. What you are searching for is what you're searching with. Now, it's so familiar to you that you can actually experience it directly, like right now. Would you like to do that? Okay? So just close your eyes for a minute. And just ask yourself this question. Who is the I? Who is the I that is asking the question, who is the I? Who is the I that is asking the question, who is the I? And it's very fleeting. It may come, it may go, it may feel like home. The witness is just watching what is ever going on internally and externally, and the more you watch from this place, the more you see the world through those eyes, the more things that no longer serve you will fall away. It begins to filter out all the outside stimuli and the distorted, generalized way that we see life. Go ahead and you can open your eyes now if you want, or you can just listen from the witness, right? Like, that I got me here to have this conversation. All of the experiences of my life has led to this exact precise moment where I experience myself as being the witness of my life. So there's this part of you, and then there's the other part that is the internal matrix, the already always way of looking at the world through filters. So up until now, you've had this internal map of reality, structured in a certain way, based on your past experiences, and it's operated to create your reality automatically and unconsciously. Learning to operate it consciously, voluntarily, will actually give you some control on your life. Can you get rid of the internal filters? Might not be a good idea. Maybe it is a good idea. Maybe not. What you can do is you can stand in your life and look at how life looks with your filters, and then look at how life, step back from it as the witness of your life, and see how's that going? How's that working? And begin to alter either your procedures, how you're proceeding about things, what the things that you do, the actions you take, or your perception, how it is that you view the world.
Can I give them an example?
Yes.
So, you have a teenager who borrowed the car last night, and it's Sunday morning, and you're in the kitchen, and the teenager comes up and goes, "Wow, can I help you?" What's the first thing that goes through your mind? What do you want? Right? What did you do?
That was in unison, right?
Now, that's the filter, right? That's the matrix.
Or, Mom,
right?
You look beautiful.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So how come we don't go to the mirror, or we don't immediately give the teenager something to do? Has nothing to do with the fact that the teenager said, "I smashed the car last night." The teenager said, "Can I help you?" Or, "You look beautiful."
So you run out to the garage
But
to
the
check the
internal
car, right?
matrix says something is wrong. Teenagers don't usually come and offer help, right? So for that reason, there must be something wrong, right? So that's how the filter works. And the filter doesn't really allow you to hear things as they're being said. The matrix doesn't let you be present, even, because it's already decided. It's trying to be a step ahead all the time, making you safe, making you safe, making you safe. So it looks at everything as a possible threat. So you're in constant defense. You're not living. You're constantly watching out so nothing goes wrong.
Yeah. And that's not
Right?
a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not
Well,
a
it's
wrong
got
thing.
them-
It's
it's
a matter
got
of
you
fact,
here.
the reason we're here as humans is because we have this.
Right.
This reticular activator, this ability to, in the cortex, envision in an instant. Like so fast that you can, that it seems like it's really a reality because you saw it just before it happened. To envision in an instant what is almost certainly about to happen, and then scan instantly through an almost infinite amount of data that you've accumulated over your lifetime that's stored in your subconscious mind out of sight so that you don't have to be bothered by it. Compare it to all past experiences that were similar to that and all past responses that were successful in keeping you safe, and instantly respond to that with the appropriate response
It's like your
without
own
you
Google
even
system.
being there. You don't even have to think about it. It's
Right.
done before you even know it.
Yeah.
It's super fast. Okay? So then there's the possibility of going, once you've distinguished that this is what's happening and become grounded in being the witness, you could go, wow, you know what happened is as soon as you said that I looked great and that you wanted to help me in the kitchen, the first thing I thought was that there must be something wrong with the car. Am I right? No? Yes? Okay.
Right.
Then you deal with reality instead of what your filter told you to deal with.
Well, you can also be
Right?
responsible.
No, there's nothing wrong with the car, Mom.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or, you know?
Yeah, you can be responsible to what does the filter think versus what is real, right? The minute you're conscious of the internal matrix, now you have a choice. Now I can check. Is it my filter or is there something really going on? Yes?
Yes.
Great.
And so then you filter for what's possible, right? Possibility thinkers, again, see possibility everywhere. You know, and pretty much think that everything's possible. They say, how can I do this? If they don't know actually how to do something, the assumption behind the question is that there is a way to do it. You know, that they just haven't figured it out yet. They don't have to know how to do it in order to go, okay, I can see how I can do this, even though they may not know how. Because whatever you focus on tends to get created. Focusing on possibilities and I can or how can I causes your brain to tap into both internal and external resources that you have, vast resources, that allow your brain to figure out the answer to anything you ask it.
Right.
It's like you have this vast tool that's available for you, and it can create fantastic things, but all we're using it for is to protect ourselves and to insulate ourselves from life.
Can I give him an example? How many of you have tried to lose 5 pounds here and there? Yes? Yeah. So how come that doesn't work is this. Most people are focused on the weight and losing it. And when you do that, all you do is manifest more weight. So if you'd like to lose weight, what there is to focus on is how beautiful and healthy and vibrant and gorgeous and delicious you are. So when you focus on that, that begins to manifest. How come diets don't work is people are focused on what's wrong, on being fat. I'm fat, I need to lose weight. We even say it, yes? So the diet that works is a diet where you are feeding yourself how beautiful, magnificent, healthy, and vital you are. And that does work.
Yeah.
It's about feeling good about yourself.
The reason filter, the reasonable filter, the one that says it's reasonable to believe that the kid wrecked the car or whatever, right? Or that he wants, what do you want, right? That would be a good, you have good reasons based on past experience to believe that, yes? That filter deletes possibilities. It just deletes. The possibility can't get in there, it's deleted before it happens, right? When you delete something, your brain doesn't notice it. If you have something in your word, did anybody use word processors? You use word, almost everybody does now, right? You type with the word processor. If there's something in the misspelling or a sentence you don't want and you just delete it, does the word processor go, why'd you do that? Where'd you go? Should I save this? You know, it's just gone, right? You don't notice it, it's just, you move on.
Unfortunately.
It's just gone, right? So when you delete possibilities, you don't even know you did it.
Yeah.
It's just gone. And so the most successful people sort by possibility, but also notice the potential problems. I'm not saying don't notice the problems. So, like I said, it's not a bad thing that we protect ourselves. Thank God we did, or else we would have been eaten by tigers or something a long time ago, because we're kind of, you know, soft and juicy, and we don't have big scales or big teeth, or we don't even run that fast. So in the natural world, we would be food, except for that we have this tremendous brain that can predict about what's about to happen and take appropriate actions. And we've survived that way. And, so they do notice the problems, and people who sort by possibility, they sort by, but they don't sort by necessity, and they pretty much ignore impossibility. Right? It's just deleted and you don't even notice it.
So the internal matrix would have them be a certain way. And if they wanted to be people who create their lives as opposed to have it happen automatically, what there would be to do is to create what's possible,
Yes.
and begin to live their lives from what is possible.
Focusing on
and
that.
then creating what's possible and planning for what's possible and beginning to take action from what's possible, rather than what you can't do, what's not possible, what's reasonable, what the risks that you're taking, right? So even just being here today is about what's possible. Yes?
Every person in the world who is successful, and by successful I don't mean just mean you got a lot of money, but I mean successful, they're happy, they have good relationships, they're healthy, their life is fulfilling, and who is creating what they want in life, is sorting by possibility. Possibility sorters are, okay? Which brings me to a story that I heard. Anybody ever heard of Jack Canfield and the Chicken Soup for the Soul books?
Right.
Yeah. So I heard about a story that he told, and I'm going to share that story with you now, okay? He was at the home of a wealthy individual who was hosting a fundraiser for a charity helping kids with drug problems. And some of the really big names were there, some of the elite rich people who run big corporations like Pillsbury and Firestone and Goodyear and so forth. And Jack was there to give a speech to motivate these people to contribute to this cause for the kids. And introducing Jack, the man told this story. When he was young, he was going to grade school, and there was a boy there who moved from place to place because his father was some kind of itinerant salesman, and he sold things off the back of his truck. And because of this, the boy moved from place to place and from school to school, never staying the same place for more than a few months. And they were poor. And they didn't have nice clothes, and so they were like economically below the level of the other students. So the teacher gave an assignment one day, And the assignment was for the kids to write about what they wanted to be when they grow up.
You remember that assignment? We've all had it in school. What do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah.
Yeah. This boy's dream was to raise and breed thoroughbred horses. He loved horses. So he wrote about having his own horse ranch. And he even drew a sketch of a horse and the ranch he wanted to have someday with a big main house and all the horse stables and the quarters for the hired help and the pastures and the areas where the horses go out and so forth. And he was very passionate about it, and he put a lot of work into it, and he was very proud of the paper, and he handed it in. When he got the paper back, it said F at the top.
I've had teachers like that.
And it said, see me after class. So he went to the teacher and he said, why did I get an F? The teacher said, I gave you an F because this is an unrealistic dream. You're poor. You live in a truck. Do you realize how much it costs to buy land in this valley? Do you realize what breeding horses cost? Do you realize what it would take to create what you've written about here? My job is to keep you from being disappointed in life. And you will be if you go after something so unrealistic. Now, go write a more realistic thing, and I'll consider changing your grade. So the boy went home and he asked his father what he should do. And his father told him that he would have to decide for himself because it was, after all, his life. But that he should be very careful because whatever he would do would probably affect the rest of his life. So the boy thought about it, and the next day he went back to the school and he went up to the teacher and he says, I'm not going to do this paper over. You can keep your F and I'll keep my dream. Now, everybody that was listening to this story at this point was very moved. And the man who was telling the story then walked over to the mantel and took a picture frame down from the wall. It was a framed copy of the paper about the dream of a horse ranch with a big red F at the top. It turned out that he was the little boy and that they were in the living room of the main house in this 204-acre horse ranch, and that this man in the previous year had made over $6 million in income. He had not been willing to accept the boundaries that somebody else thought should be placed on what was possible. He had focused his mind on what he wanted and was not willing to admit that anything was impossible. And by doing so, his mind helped him to figure out how to achieve his dream. So you can do the same thing.
You can do anything.
You have the same mind, and your mind has the same abilities. It's already creating what you focused on, and it's doing a spectacularly good job of it. You are what you created already. Mm-hmm. So I'd just like to invite you to open yourself to the fact that everything is possible. Just try that on, and that you really can create anything that you want to create. And there are very specific technologies, ways, and means, and practices.
Can we share the DVD with them?
Yeah.
Someone's dream
Yeah.
that came true.
Yeah.
We have, Gregory and I don't just talk about this. Our whole life is created. And not only is our life created, but we get to share other people's dreams all the time and watch other people create their dreams. there are people who are sitting here in this audience today who've had dreams come true, that they created, that they manifested, that they're living it today. One of our participants, one of our graduates from one of our courses, created a dream. And the dream was to become a singer as part of the dream. And as we are the encouragers and the
did she have
fan club of all the dream makers.
Did she have any agreement in her world about that?
No, there was no agreement actually. No, I don't think anyone around her thought this was a good idea. Right? And so I, of course, thought it was a brilliant idea and that it should happen. And that dreams are to be lived and experienced. And so we kept it up, me and her, and the gang of women who are very ready as graduates to support each other to really pretty much fulfill anything that you're up to. And this group of women reach as far as Iran and Australia, and they're really all over the world, and they have their own secret Facebook page, and on that page a lot of miracles get created. And would it be okay with you if we watched a DVD that is at this time on radio stations worldwide of one of those dreams coming true? Would that be okay? Yes?
Yeah.
Right? We can celebrate a dream right here.
All
yeah?
right. Great.
Great.
Anything that opened up from you? What did you see? What did you learn? What insights have you had?
Yes,
Yes, please. I'll get you a mic since nobody else is here to do it. Here you go. Is it on? Test it.
Testing.
It's on? Okay. There you go.
My question is, I 100% agree with the internal dialogue and stuff like that we
Yes.
create our life. But as far as the things is not in our control, like I didn't choose to be born in Iran. I didn't choose the revolution. I didn't choose to be a religious minority who doesn't have any even basic rights in Iran. Yes, I went through a lot and I created the life based on not internal dialogue, based on what I wanted to create for myself. But I had a lot of blocks on my way. And what I created today is not what I really wanted. And there is a time and place for everything. So what should I do with that? When I say life happens to me, those are the things happens to me. It's not that I chose to have it.
I got it. I would like for you to consider and try on, from the point of view of the witness, you did all of that. You did all of it. You chose. And even if you don't understand it or believe it, you could act as if you and you alone are totally 100% responsible for all of it. You did it. And you had your reasons. And maybe it was absolutely perfect that it be exactly the way it was and the way it is. But everything that you just said was the matrix. Everything that you just said was the matrix talking.
Right. Gregory, I think we're ready to
Can
go.
you get that? It cannot hear or see beyond itself.
Yeah, good. We will come back to that question. There's only one thing I will say. As long as you're not 100% responsible for it,
Who is?
you can't change it. Because if some other thing is doing it to you, then you have no power. The minute you say, yep, I'm responsible, that is when you have power. As long as it's some other thing that's doing it to you and you didn't choose it, and I never wanted it to be this way, then you can't do anything about it. But the minute, the minute I was willing to be responsible for everything that had happened to me, all of it, even the parts where nobody wants to say, yes, I'm responsible for that, the minute I was responsible, I could now choose how to get along with it and how to have my life be something other than my past and create a whole new future, just like the little boy did with the horse ranch. He could say, I'm a poor boy, and believe his teacher and take his circumstances and feel sorry for himself and say, I'm never going to be anything. This is the way my life is. But he said, my life is fine, and I want something else, and I'm going to create that, and I'm going to go after it.
But in her case, the part of the story that you're missing is that had he not been poor, living in the back of a truck, lesser than everyone else, he may not have even had that dream.
Yeah.
And he certainly wouldn't have the courage to tell it, you know what, keep your F. Right? Those experiences gave him the wherewithal to stand there. If he was like another rich kid going to school, he would have changed his story in an instant.
Right.
To not have an F. And his parents would have told him to.
Yeah. And one would say, if you've had, people ask me all the time, wouldn't you rather that these things didn't happen to you in your life? Yes? And the answer is no. I keep my F. I keep all the things that happened to me. Because everything that happened to me makes me who I am, and I really like who I am. Can you get this?
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you're not fighting your life as if there's something wrong with it, the minute you say, I accept it, I love it, right?
Embrace it. That's
Then
what
something
embrace growth
else
means.
begins to open up, yes?
Yeah, I am happy where I am right now. I am very happy, and regardless of all
Yeah.
those difficulties I went through, I am happy with my accomplishment. But I think if there wasn't those restrictions, I could do better.
Those restrictions are there to make you stronger. If there weren't those restrictions, then you wouldn't have anything to challenge you to keep your commitment to go forward. I can tell you, as I'm standing here, you have no idea how many restrictions we have to go to Dubai. Okay? The restrictions keep adding up because every day there's a new sanction against Iran, and it gets harder for those people to come to Dubai. And we have 120 women registered in that workshop, about 100 of them coming from Iran. Can you get what's happening
What it would
in
take
this economy
to get that kind of money to
with
go
no
to,
dollars, with no dirhams, with no flights? Being women coming from that country is no small task, yes? And as the challenges piled up on them, we got more people, not less, more. Do you understand? Great. Because it's going to be worth so much more to do it that way. Yes? Awesome. Are we ready? Yes.
Yeah.
Give a big hand. Woo!
This is your result and our result of a dream that we took actions about, we drew pictures of. I have little storyboards of us speaking and doing TV shows and creating seminars and workshops and having people spread beauty and truth and goodness throughout the world. And when we see something like that that happens out of one of our workshops, this is only one of many results, but this is a really exceptional one that
many. There are people in this room you may want to talk to and really get what they've accomplished in their lives. Short times, you know, and we say that not so much as, I want to be really clear, this isn't about just the workshop, it's about your life. It's about anything that you do that would create that for you. We just happen to be one way, there's many out there, yes? So what there is to look for the one that works for you. This is the one that worked for Ariana here, but it could be for any of you, anything you want. Find the way to go create your lives, your futures, exactly how you want them to be, and then live it. And there's a whole life that becomes available when that becomes available. Thank you so much for being here with us. Bravo! Yes! Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.